Hi, I'm just going to take you through creating a solid 3D window. So let's just see this in kind of context. So we've got wall surrounding this, we've got window surround, sill, subframe, which is the darker green, and then the casements for the window, which are the light green, and then a material for the glass. So what I'm going to do is build it up on this 2D window that is flat against the wall surface at the moment. Okay, so I'll just put this back to 2D wireframe. I'm in the left coordinate system at the moment, and I'm going to bring in my drawn section for this particular window type. Okay, now bear in mind the section is for this window. Okay, so we're going to have to stretch the section downwards to suit this larger window. Okay, so Shift Control and V to bring in my section, and the coordination point is just here, which is the underside of the window surround. Okay, so you can see here on this section, this is the wall, this represents the window surround, the subframe, the casements, and I've got an item on the inside to represent the kind of wall linings on the inside. We kind of call that the internal window reveal. Okay, so I'm just going to explode this just so I can get rid of the hatching. Okay, that's gone. So what we need to do is stretch this downwards. So this green line here represents the top of this box. Okay, so what I'll do is draw a polyline out from there, okay, and draw a polyline down from there, and then if I trim those two, we'll be able to see how far I've got to move. I think I'll change to layer 0 just for general drawing, so it's a bit lighter and we can see what's happening. Okay, so what should happen now, if I stretch this by this distance, we should be in a better situation. Okay, let's just move it to the side. Don't need this line now. And stretch, you need to use a crossing window from endpoint to endpoint. Okay, so that puts the majority of this stuff in the right place. Okay, so this is in line with that, top of this is in line with this, bottom of that. Okay, always test things with your 3D. Use distance to check what's happening. And you're looking for this, in this case I'll be looking for differences in the Y coordinate. So is this point higher than that? Is this point higher than this? Etc. Okay, so it's distance. Okay, the Y direction should be 0. Distance again from here to here. Y is 0. Okay, we're all looking good here. Okay, but you can see here that the windowsill is much deeper on this one, so we need to stretch this downwards. So I'm trying to avoid putting numbers in. We just use the actual sizes. What I'm going to do is just get rid of a couple of layers in the background because they're kind of showing through a bit too much. Okay, that's a bit better. Okay, so just like we did before, just a polyline, and polyline down from here. Okay, I should be able to extend that and then trim one with the other, and that's how much I need to stretch just the windowsill. This stays where it is. I'm just stretching the windowsill now. These lines have done their job. Okay, let's just move it to the side so we can delete it afterwards, and then stretch. So S, enter, and I'm going to go by this amount. Okay, just check it. Distance from here to here, Y should be 0. You can never be too sure with 3D. It may look correct, but when you turn around, everything's all messy. Okay, so that's a polyline already, which is handy. So we could just move that into position. Okay, so this needs to come to here. That might not register as an intersection. Let's just see if it does. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It does today. So it is allowing that intersection to be used as a base point, and I can move it to the end of the profile. Okay, so let's extrude that. May as well start putting in a few 3D shapes as we go. Okay, the sill here is in the kind of correct position already, so we could actually just use that as is. So let's just extrude that. Okay, and this is going the full length of the inside of the window. Okay, let's just shade that so you can see what's happening. Oh, we need to get rid of the wall. We don't want the wall layer visible. So I can see we've got our two components of them already, and the distance here, same as the distance here. Okay, back to 2D wireframe. Okay, let's do the window surround next. So that's facing a different direction. We can't do that from the section. Okay, we need to face that to at the front. Okay, now the shape of this here isn't really going to be much help. It'd be better to model this from the front and extrude it forwards and backwards. So I'm going to change to the back UCS because I'm actually working on the back of the building here. Okay, and then using my 2D information that I've got, okay, you know, draw things absolutely as accurately as you can. It makes making the 3D stuff much easier. Okay, we'll take that up to the point here, then across, and then just the letter C to close because I'm coming back to my first point, so C and enter, and that's ready to go. Okay, now with this particular design, what we're going to do is we've got the window sill projecting 50mm. Okay, so I've got 50mm there. I want the window surround to be 25mm projecting from the wall, but 150mm deep. So if I move this initially by 25, but then extrude it back the way by 150. So it's minus 150. Okay, so we've got a bit of a merge going on in this corner. So let's see what these two shapes look like when they're joined together if we union them. Okay, so it looks quite good, looks quite stony like that. There's a bit of this that we don't need though. Okay, when it ends up in the wall, this wedge should really not be there. Now when you're making 3D printed models, that's not a big issue because as long as the objects are solids, they can kind of merge into each other, they can overlap into each other. But just for kind of accuracy's sake, we'd really want to get rid of that particular bit of wedge. Okay, so using the front UCS again, we need a box that's this shape. Okay, but it needs to be a little bit higher. It's where the wall would be cutting through. So it's more the projection of this line up to this one. So that's a little bit tricky. We need to go back to the left UCS for that and draw a line up here, a line along here, and then trim those to each other to find where we draw our box. Okay, a rectangle should do it. If I draw a rectangle there, that's the bit that needs shaved off. So extrude that back. Okay, it has to happen on both ends. Okay, so I'll just copy it before I use it. Okay, now I've got to be careful where my base point is. I could use this as a base point and copy it over to there. Okay, and then subtract one from the other. So I generally try to imagine, you know, what the components would be if I was ordering this. You know, if I was giving somebody a drawing to order this sill and window surround, you know, what would the drawing look like? So that's more like it. We've got this called a stooled sill. It projects into the wall, but that bit's level and it's sloping on this bit. So they're quite complicated shaped objects. You know, they're quite elegant bits of stonework. Okay. Right, there's a bit of 2D stuff in here that we could probably dispense with, just to kind of thin things down a bit. Just clear away a few of these lines as we go. Okay. Now, we could now have a look at the front of this. I'm a bit worried that there's a lot of stuff behind me, so I'm just going to move the whole collection to one side so we get a clear view through the model. Okay, so I'll just pull it to the side so we can work on it. I'll actually copy it and then we know where to put it back to. Okay, so we'll work on the copy from now on. Okay, so I want to look at this side, so that's back to the back QCS, and then plan and enter twice. So we'll zoom in on the window now. Okay, even though it's in 3D, if we trace with a polyline, it's not going to deviate front to back. Okay, so polyline, I'm going to start here, so 1, 2, and just trace around the what I call the subframe. Okay, back up to here, across and down again. Well, that's the closing line, so just C and enter. Okay, let's deal with these one at a time so we don't get too messed up. So there's our shape. Draw these with polylines if you're working with solids, it makes it much easier. Okay, so let's move that from endpoint to endpoint. Okay, so this is going to be the depth of the window frame, and that should be 150 millimeters. Okay, because this has just come from the section. Okay, so extrude that forwards by the 150, and we could join it onto the subcell. So subframe onto subcell. Let's have a look at that shaded. Starting to look more like a window now. We're now dealing with the casements, with the bits that move up and down so you can open the window. Okay, so plan again. Okay, so effectively this is two objects that move. We've got the upper window, so imagine me animating this. So if I was opening the upper window, I slide it down. Okay, if I'm opening the lower window, this one slides up behind the upper window. So they're in two different levels. One's in front of the other. So the upper one is in front of the lower one to protect it from the weather. Okay, so we just need rectangles here, but we're missing a point. We need to know where this line would hit the side of the frame. So extend. Okay, we've got lots of 2D stuff lurking underneath here, so we've got plenty of lines to extend towards. Okay, so like I say, I can't say it enough, the good 2D makes the 3D easy. Okay, so that's two rectangles for the upper window and two rectangles for the lower window. Okay, let's have a look at that in 3D, see what we've got. Okay, now all of these are going to be 50 millimeters deep. So let's just do the extrusions. So we've got 4 extrusions to do. So EXT, and it should pick the newest objects. Generally that's how kind of AutoCAD works. We should be in control. Oops. Notice the newer versions, if you deviate, you can lose your selections very easily with these newer versions of AutoCAD. Okay, let's try that again just here, and the inner one. Okay, and these are going back the way 50 millimeters, so it's minus 50. Okay, now subtract from the outer one, enter, take the inner one. Do that again for the lower frame, pick the outer one, enter, pick the inner one, enter. Okay, so we should have 2 frames now, the upper one and the lower one. Okay, we move the lower one back by its own thickness, so we can use any of these endpoints. Okay, let's just shade that so you can see what's happening now. Okay, do you see how it's working now? So we've got a lower window that we can open. I could do sound effects if you want. And we've got the upper window that we could open. Okay, but these need pushed back a little bit. Oh, Houston, we got a problem here. No we don't, no we don't. No we don't. This needs to go back quite a long way. Okay, I think what we'll do is take them to the very back of the window first, and then bring them forwards. Okay, so trying to get my head around which point to pick. This would be my base point. Take it to the very back of the frame. Okay, let's shade it there, see what's happening. Okay, so we're in line now with the back of the frame. Okay, and all we need to do now is just pull them both forwards by 25. So move them both forwards by 25. And that should give us an even amount of frame on either side. You can see it's sitting here. There's a 25, 50, 50, 25. All good. We're nearly there. We just need some glass in this now. Okay, we've got a lot of 2D stuff kicking around. That's gonna be awkward, but we'll looking for my 2D glass layer. Okay, a lot of lines here, so got to be. Luckily, when you draw a 3D face, you can move the model around in between. So 3D face from midpoint to midpoint. Okay, to midpoint to midpoint. So let me just show you how that's sitting. It should be a blue pane of glass sitting halfway inside that casement. Okay, we'll do that again at the back this time. I'm not 100% sure they're both the same size, these, so I'm just drawing a second piece of glass. So it should be to here, down to this midpoint, and then across to this one. Okay, and that's our 3D window. Okay, I can dispense with the 2D stuff now, and I should be able to just delete everything over this side as long as I use a regular window. As long as I use a blue one, we're not going to pick up anything of our 3D model there. Okay, I'm going to keep this point and just put a circle on it because that's where it needs to go back onto the wall. Okay, let's just get rid of these 2D objects. Need to be a bit more careful down here that I don't delete anything 3D. I think everything's joined together so it shouldn't lose anything. And similarly there, so it's looking a bit cleaner now. Okay, so one object that I hadn't put on yet is the window surround on the inside, so the reveal. So let's just put these onto organize these onto layers now so we can tell what's what. I've got a window surround, I've got my two casements, so these are my Win 2, this is Win 1 layer, and the glass is already on the correct layer. So the last thing to put on is the internal window reveal. Okay, you can use a rectangle for that again. So I'm just going around the overall window frame, offset that out the way just so we give it some solidity. And the extrusion depth, that's a little bit trickier. My overall wall depth is going to be 450 millimeters. So what I'll do is go to the left UCS and draw a polyline from the center of this circle, 450 millimeters. Big, thick, old stone wall. Sometimes they're massively thick, talking 600, 750, they can be really big and thick. Okay, well, we'll just go with 450. Okay, then extrude both of these to this point and subtract one from the other. Don't need that line now. Quick shade just to check. Everything's looking good. Got my window. So this is the bit you would see through the window on the inside of the building. Just enough to give the impression that there's a wall inside. Okay, now we need to know where that point is back on the actual building. Okay, let's get rid of this 3D object here. So it's this point here is where we're going to. Okay, we don't need that stuff now. We're going to bring the window back into position. Okay, so we'll move it from the center to the center. Okay, and get rid of these circles. I'll keep one of them. Okay, so if I put the walls back on, okay, wall general, you can see we haven't got a hole for the window. It needs to be punctured through the wall. Okay, so I've got a layer here that I use for that nice bright colour. I call it a cutter. So we just need a polyline around the overall window shape. So let's go from, we need to be on the back UCS, polyline from the center here. Okay, so I'm tracing around the window surround. Notice the polyline doesn't deviate, doesn't go in or out. Okay, and close. Okay, I could extrude that a long way, or things are very accurate, I just need to extrude it by the thickness of the wall and then subtract from the wall, enter, take away the cutter. Circle's done its job. We should be looking good now. So let's shade it for the last time, and there's our window. Put these back on. Okay, it's a strange building this. It's partially demolished, and these were bay windows that have fallen off the building. Honestly, it's a bit of a wreck, this building at the moment. Okay, so that's a 3D solid window, and what I'll do is now revisit this one and turn this into a 3D faced window. So that will be the next video.